This next story, unfortunately, it's going to become more common than not. Chicago had to dip into its cash reserves to cover retirement checks the city's pension fund couldn't pay. Chicago's four main public pension funds are amongst the nation's most underfunded. They have more pension debt than 44 states and carry $35 billion in pension debt and a well-deserved credit rating at just barely above junk bond status. Now, in July, the state passed a bill to increase state pensions for cops and firefighters. This added billions of dollars to the already bloated pension liabilities, and it tanked their funding ratios further. It's as if they're tone deaf or really don't understand basic math. They just simply don't care. The proposed changes would reduce the funded ratio for both the police and firefighter funds to just under 20%. And most actuaries consider a funded ratio of below 20% to be technically insolvent. My next guest, he's a pension guy and a Chicago guy, so we thought we'd bring him on. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Craig Bolanos. He's a co-founder and wealth manager at VestGen Wealth Partners. Craig, it's kind of a show over there. I mean, what's going on in Chicago? Tell us.
I'm speechless. Scott, you're doing this to me. There's not enough Tylenol and there's not enough Advil to make me feel better because I've already got the highest property taxes or some of the highest property taxes in the nation. I pay an amusement tax, a bottled water tax, a plastic bag tax, a hotel tax, a soft drink tax, you name it, it's already taxed. So if you say to me, hey, we're going to increase pension benefits and we're going to somehow close the 1.2 billion with a B budget shortfall in the city of Chicago for 2026, I don't know where it's coming from because there's no nuisance taxes left to even do.
So, I said to you in the break, when I was a adjunct professor of finance at DePaul University, this is 2015, so 10 years ago, I had the students look at the books of the city of Chicago, not the state, but just the city, and they all were shocked at about basically the fact that the state or the city was basically insolvent back then. It was really more of a shell game to keep things going. And I said to you over the break, I can't imagine in the last 10 years things have gotten any better, and I'm sure they haven't. They've actually gotten worse. Oh, yeah. But this city's still able to sell bonds to raise cash, and they really haven't had to pay that much in interest to borrow that money. It boggles my mind with the state that they're in. Clearly, if you ask me, they're banking on a federal bailout. What say you?
I think that's exactly right. I think the city of Chicago is looking for a statewide bailout, and the state then is looking for a federal bailout because it's just the law of large numbers. And so everybody understands there are a lot of pensions that are well funded, but when you look at a national average of public pensions, they're typically funded at least at 70%. Scott, as you said, we're approaching 20%, which for all intents and purposes is insolvent. It is a technical default. We're already there. So when people hear headlines that Chicago, the Windy City, yes, it's a great place, but I don't even know how you start to repair the finances because the finances are that amiss after just decades and decades of poor stewardship. To be honest, the only way to fix it might be some level of insolvency, but professionally, I always tell people, that's why if you live in Illinois, I think of clients that we represent, we run national muni portfolios. I don't want to run a state-specific portfolio in Illinois because there's too much trepidation, and I do think the bond yields and the spreads should be higher than the way they're currently priced. So what does it mean to investors? Know what you own when it comes to munis. What does it mean to people who live in Illinois? There needs to be a higher sense of awareness and complacency because the do-nothing attitude is not a solution. We need to go ahead and rise up and just say no more and do intelligent, thoughtful measures to try to right a ship that, even though I know it probably can't be righted at this point.
No, it's going to sink. So you have somebody that comes to you, they're a lifelong city of Chicago, they've lived there forever. They've got a big Chicago pension fund. What do you tell them? What do you do with it? What can be done?
Well, what I tell everybody is this. First, I got to be sincere. You've got to keep the promise to those workers that you've made. But it starts with discernible change for everybody that's new. Just because everybody else had a very generous per capita pension benefit doesn't mean new people coming into the system should have the same thing. It's going to need to be diluted. I know that's politically unpopular, but I do think you have to keep your promises. And from a planning perspective, just as planning goes into how Social Security may likely be modified, I think as a financial planner, we need to be sincere and honest. When we have pension funding ratios at this level, people need to actually apply a discounted actuarial formula. That's a fancy way of saying potentially not plan on, if you're going to be retired for 30 to 40 years, collecting your full benefit with your full cost of living adjustments. I think that's just responsible to discuss with people when they come into the office.
I mean, we got a minute left, but I mean, I'm looking at this thinking while you're talking, you could be a City of Chicago employee, and you might see the pension, the Social Security field change. So you might have to work longer for less or a lot less than you thought at the end.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, when some workers, not all, because there are many pension systems in Illinois, there are many pension systems in Chicago. But the idea that people are going to receive 80% of their final average salary, it's just too much, especially when you put cost of living adjustments on top of it. And you look at the miracle that is healthcare and the miracle that is aging today in America because we've come so far. And I just want people to be aware and receptive of changes that are going to need to be made. Because when you hear things like insolvency and you hear things like credit downgrades, you eventually get to the point that you're in a spiral through which you can't undo. And I think that's unfortunately where we sit specifically for the city of Chicago. And Scott, shout out to you for creating awareness so other cities don't emulate what we did in the Windy City.
I think that there's more out there. They haven't said it yet. But I appreciate you coming on. You're right in the thick of it. Thank you very much, Craig. Craig Bolanos. He's co-founder and wealth partner at VestGen Wealth Partners up in Chicago. All right.